This podcast is a member of the Place to Be Nation family. Visit us at placetobenation.com, the only place to be in your pop culture world.
This is It Was a Thing on TV.
Spoiler number one is Dr. Lee Franz. It stinks.
What is going on? What is going on? Episode 77, Submission 379. The WTF stories of Unsolved Mysteries.
This is going to be a very historic departure for this show because we're actually covering a show that technically is still on the air. Because last week, Netflix dropped season 15 of the show, and frankly, it's awesome. I like it. It is, and if you are a big true crime fan, that's going to be your jam. That's basically Unsolved Mysteries sexed up. Unfortunately, the only appearance from Robert Stack is a photographic still in the opening. Thanks, Duffer Brothers.
Yeah, because obviously it's very hard to replace somebody as iconic, associated with one show like Robert Stack was.
Yeah, just ask Dennis Farina, who did.
Okay, I was just going to say, Peanut Gallery has a question. Did they say anything about Dennis Farina?
No.
Okay, not surprising.
Good.
Although he was okay too, I guess. I don't know.
When we think of Unsolved Mysteries back in the day, in our younger days, we associate the show with some of the weirdest stuff you'll ever find. Of course, you had your murders, you had your true crime stuff, and you had your reunited of lost loves. Yeah, those were were touching. But the real reason we watched Unsolved Mysteries was the out there, what the hell is this stories.
Yep. These were your mysteries of the unknown from Time Life Books material. And we're going to cover 4 of them each on this episode, and we've taken a look at what we've all had to cover, and all I can say is, what the ever-loving beep beep! So, hey Mike, why don't you start us off?
Okay. To start off this episode, I want to bring up the story of one Dee Klepper. In the fall of 1977, Dee Klepper's mother, Cece, was driving to a friend's house with her daughter, Dee, and Dee became extremely agitated. Dee told her mother that this intersection was a dangerous place. Now, mind you, from what I've seen, Dee Klepper was probably around 5 years old at the time, maybe even, it looks like 4. I'll get to how we figured that out in a second. So she was probably about 3 to 4 years old. And so what's a 3 to 4 year old saying, this is a dangerous place, a dangerous intersection? Cece later told another relative about this incident. The relative told her, Cece, that her grandmother, named Ocelia Davidson, was nearly killed in a car accident at that same place 17 years earlier.
Whoa.
Huh?
Well, hold on. This gets a little more interesting. It couldn't have been possible for the daughter Dee to know about this because Ocelia Davidson had passed in 1966, 7 years before she was born, before Dee was born. So Cece became convinced that her daughter Dee was a reincarnation of Ocelia Davidson. It gets a little deeper than that. I mean, that's kind of crazy as is. Cece, the mother, noticed that Dee started acting like Ocelia as well. And one day when they were at the grocery store, Dee, the daughter, began talking with an older woman. She told Cece that the woman was an old friend of hers. Cece learned that she had been a close friend and neighbor of Ocelia's for over 30 years. 2 months later, when Cece and Dee were at a restaurant, Dee called an older waitress by her first name, Helen. It was impossible for her to know that. However, Ocelia was a regular at the restaurant and knew Helen well. Dee is, at the time of the writing of this, is an adult, so she'd probably be in the range of about 47, 48-ish. And she has no memories of Ocelia. She was born 7 years later. However, Cece is certain that Dee is the reincarnation of Ocelia Davidson. And this episode originally aired on July 16th of 2001. So there's your very bizarre case to start off our festivities.
Okay. Well, I've got one. This is from the May 22nd, 1998 episode. It's called Chair of Death. And what happened? What happened was Thomas Busby, a striper with the British forces, was tried and convicted in 1702 for the murder of his father-in-law, who he supposedly strangled for sitting in his favorite chair after an argument about his wife, or the father-in-law's daughter. Now, on his way to the gallows, he wanted to stop at his favorite bar, sit in his favorite chair, and have himself a pint, which, is normal. As soon as he was done, and before they took him to the gallows, he said, and now I'm quoting, "May sudden death come to anyone who dares sit in my chair." Now, fast forward a couple of centuries, we're up to the 1940s, World War II. Airmen from a base decided to go to the pub and have a seat in the chair, and while driving back, they crashed into a tree and died. Then a few years later, two bricklayers decided to try it. That afternoon, the one who sat in it fell and died. Apparently it has literally killed everyone who sat in it, no matter what. There's always been some sort of freaky instance in which somebody sits in the chair and then soon after they die. It's almost like Final Destination, if you think about it. So eventually, and the weirdest one was a cleaning woman stumbled into it while she was mopping. She was killed by a brain tumor. So eventually, the owner moved into the basement, hoping nobody would sit in it, and then one day a delivery man was in the basement, sat in it. An hour later, he crashed his truck and died. So the landlord asked the local museum to take it, and they hung the chair 5 feet from the ground so nobody would be able to sit in it. And the local museum is where it sits. It's where it sits to this day, hanging on a wall 5 feet off the ground so nobody can sit in it. Apparently, the chair's killing days are over.
Okay, my dad for years, we're talking like 35, 40 years, he's had his own recliner, and he said, if you sit in my recliner, I'm going to kill you. But damn, that takes it literally.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's something else.
Oh, yeah. That is a whole lot of something else.
My first segment is going to be on the Taos Hum from Season 7, Episode 20, originally aired May 19th, 1995. Across the world, thousands of people report hearing an odd hum, a sonic phenomenon that only they can hear. So this covers 3 different people: Sarah Allen, Winona Whithead, and Hal Raniero. Sarah Allen has reported that the sound does not change, even if she moves around to different places. Winona Whithead claims that it sounds like the air is sizzling, and Hal Raniero claims that it sounds like a diesel engine running, causing ear pain. Hal claimed that he started hearing the hum after he moved to a small lakeside town outside of Detroit, At first, he assumed that it was just a motor sound. However, the longer the sound continued, the more it caused him to lose focus. He checked the local airport, the ventilation systems of a university, and other places where he believed the sound may be coming from. However, he could not determine the origin of the hum. So a few people suggested to Hal that the hum was coming from electrical fields in the area. They suggested that he go to an underground copper mine to see if he could still hear the hum from down there. And within a few minutes, he confirmed that he could still hear the hum. Surprisingly, he said it was even worse underground. Sarah Allen, a radio broadcast engineer, claims to have started hearing the hum in 1992 after she was dispatched to repair a transmitter. She was able to play a digital recording of what the hum sounds like to her. She lives in Taos, New Mexico, which is where the hum is most often heard from, and some believe the sound originates from the town. The digital recording was played for Renata Whithead, who lives in nearby Santa Fe. She said that the recording was very close to what she often hears. She has been hearing the sound since 1990, but it has completely disrupted her life. She is currently on disability from her work at the National Park Service. Hundreds of people who hear the mysterious hum are now part of a support group. They believe the hum may be caused by a radio system known as ELF, or extremely low frequency. The Navy created this to communicate with the nation's submarine fleet. While underwater, submarine cannot receive standard radio waves. However, low-frequency signals are capable of penetrating through hundreds of feet of water to reach vessels on the ocean floor. The system has been in use since the late 1980s. It was first heard in Great Britain in 1970. Since then, it has been heard in Canada, France, Germany, Austria, South Africa, China, Australia, and New Zealand, and it continues to confuse and annoy those who hear it. So the mysterious humming sound has baffled doctors and scientists. They got an ear, nose, and throat doctor brought in by Unsolved Mysteries to meet with Hal to determine if the hum was due to any specific hearing problem he had. And although he was found to be suffering from hearing loss, they found nothing that could explain why he's hearing the bizarre hum. And they sent a team of scientists to Taos, New Mexico to find the source of the hum, and they brought sound and radiation sensing equipment, but they could not find anything unusual in the town.
That's bizarre.
Really?
Especially, I mean, when you're talking about the very low frequency waves or whatnot. Taos, New Mexico is nowhere near water. That's bizarre. I wonder if it's still happening now, because obviously that episode was well over 20 years ago.
There is a Wikipedia page on the hum, by the way. So
interesting. I don't think I can top that. That's interesting.
I don't think so either.
But I'm going to try. I'm going to talk about the Oakville Blobs. Now, it's not a baseball team or anything like that. You'll catch how weird this is in a moment. This was on the episode which first aired on May 9th of 1997. On August 7th of 1994, in Oakville, Washington, about 3 o'clock in the morning, rain began to fall, and the rain covered about a 20-square-mile area. The rain isn't necessarily uncommon in that area if you've ever been to Washington State. But residents noted that it wasn't water that was raining. It was a strange gelatinous substance that they hadn't seen before. And this didn't just happen on August 7th of 94. Over a 3-week period, this gel, the substance fell in a rainstorm a total of 6 times. At the time it first began, one of the police officers was on patrol with a civilian friend. And when he turned on his windshield wipers, it smeared against the windshield instead of washing off. So, I mean, if you've ever obviously had any sort of creature, a bug smash into your windshield and you try wiping it off, you know how much of a mess that is. The obscured windshield forced the officer to pull into a gas station and try to clean it manually after donning a pair of latex gloves for safety. He described it as being very mushy, almost like if you had Jell-O in your hand. Another local resident stepped outside after it stopped and noticed it was everywhere. At first, it looked like hailstones, but after touching it, she noticed it had that same odd gelatinous feeling. By the afternoon of that day, many people both the officer, the local resident that took a look at this, and other residents had become mysteriously and violently ill. They described having difficulty breathing, vertigo, blurred vision, and nausea. Another resident said that everyone in town contracted a flu-like illness that lasted 2 to 3 months. Additionally, several cats and dogs that came into contact with the substance fell ill and died.
Oh.
Oh,
Yeah.
my.
An hour after first noticing her symptoms, one of the residents was found sprawled on her bathroom floor, conscious but very weak. Her daughter described her as feeling cold and sweat-drenched and looking pale. She was moved to the hospital where she stayed for 3 days and was diagnosed with a severe inner ear infection. As she was being moved to the hospital, the patient remembered the odd rain and thinking there might be a connection to another resident's illness. So she collected a sample and sent to the hospital. A lab tech examined it and found that it contained human white blood cells, but couldn't identify what it was or how it came from the sky. This sample was sent to the Washington State Department of Health for further study. A microbiologist there noted it was teeming with 2 species of bacteria, one of which lives in the human digestive system. Okay, this is getting really creepy now. Now we've got white blood cells and a bacteria that's found in the human digestive system. This is
Is it H. pylori?
It doesn't say, but yeah, this is a definite WTF thing going on here. Based on the microbiologist's findings, it was initially speculated to be human waste from an airplane. But FAA regulations require that to be dyed blue, while the blobs were perfectly clear. Furthermore, regulations forbid pilots from releasing this blue ice in mid-flight. Nearly a year after one of the residents fell ill, she mailed a sample she had stored in her freezer to a private research laboratory. While analyzing it, a microbiologist at this research laboratory believed he saw a eukaryotic cell, complex nucleus containing cells that are present in most living creatures. This means that it is or had been alive. One theory as to the origins was that the military's naval bombing runs at sea had accidentally destroyed a school of jellyfish and sent their pieces flying into the atmosphere, where they settled in Oakville, 50 miles inland. The distance the parts would have traveled, the number of times it fell, and the lack of any rotting smell in it put this theory in doubt to most of its residents. While the Air Force confirms they were doing practice bombing runs over the Pacific Ocean in August 1994, they deny knowledge of the substance or any involvement in creating or dispersing it. Oakville residents are skeptical of this. Prior to it, many noticed a significant, almost daily amount of slow-moving military aircraft in the skies above. Some believe Oakville was the site of a military experiment designed to test a new biological weapon or to test the possible damage a biological attack on U.S. soil could do. No samples of the substance exist today. How about that? I mean, I know we're not trying to one-up each other, but yeah.
Yeah, we're not trying to one-up each other, but I think I might have you beat here. Okay, let me tell you, because I'm a medical professional, I like the medical stories, and one of my favorites is the story of Dr. Cynthia Watson. She is a board-certified family medicine provider and a nationally recognized practitioner and lecturer in the field of integrative medicine. Still is, by the way. And she is known for incorporating conventional medicine with herbal medicine, homeopathy, natural hormone therapy, and nutrition. And her treatment approach is very holistic. It focuses on wellness and the preventative ways to achieve greater vitality and extend the quality of life. She's on this show because she is an expert on aphrodisiacs.
Ooh!
Thank you. She's been studying aphrodisiacs and their history for quite some time, and one of the traditions that she ended up studying was European newlyweds would drink wine mixed with honey every night to help give them the energy for relations.
Wacka wacka wow, wacka wacka wow.
There's not enough sex on this show. Anyway, the Puritans also had their own... the Puritans!
Oh, the Puritans of all people!
They had their very own aphrodisiac, the dandelion weed, filled with vitamin A, and of course, you all know about the viral powers of oysters.
I do not want to picture what it would be like for the Puritans to have sex.
Vitamin A, am I right?
But yeah, one of her patients, a person that we're going to call Charlie, visited Dr. Watson complaining about a lack of sleep after 18-hour workdays. Been there. She asked him about his sex life, and he said that it was negatively affected. She prescribed him a regimen of herbs and vitamins. While at the office, he tried chocolates filled with herbs and spices. He later brought the chocolates home because, hey, they're in the waiting room, they're community property. He ate them with his girlfriend, and later that night, they had the relations.
Oh, that's an episode of Six Sent Me to the ER waiting to happen.
Mm-hmm. He believes that the aphrodisiac chocolates helped them. Let's just say Viagra. Chocolate flavor. Am I right?
Oh, jeez. Okay, moving on. Our next segment comes from the October 30th, 1991 episode, Season 4, Episode 7, on the St. James Hotel in New Mexico. In 1985, Ed Sitzberger and his wife Patricia bought the St. James Hotel in Cimarron, New Mexico, hoping to restore it. During one rainy night, Patricia and a friend went around to see how many leaks there were in the hotel. When they were done, they turned the chandelier off and left. And as they were in the parking lot, Patricia turned around and saw that the chandelier was turned on again. They went inside and turned the chandelier off. But when they got back outside, the chandelier was on once again. Patricia then went inside and told the spirits, "I don't know who you are, but I don't want to play anymore, and I want to go home." And the next time they went outside, the chandelier was off. The Sitzbergers claim that the entire hotel is haunted. Guests in room 17 of the hotel report that whenever the window is left open, there is a mysterious fast-paced tapping noise that continues until they close the window. In the kitchen, and this is the best part, in the kitchen, the cook witnessed several bizarre occurrences. For example, a glass levitating in the air off the side of a table. And in May of 1988, Charlie Valera, a local high school student, was cleaning the bar at 5 a.m. when he saw a little kid spinning a glass on the bar. As Charlie moved closer to the bar, the child turned around and his face was glowing blue. The child then jumped off the bar and disappeared. And this spooked the kid so much, he's like, "I don't want to work in this hotel anymore." Oh, and it's hilarious. The blue lighting on the kid as he turns around is just such great stuff. Amateur ghost hunter Dr. Kenneth Wright and Patricia both saw a strange glowing ball in one of the rooms while he was investigating. And this is a great segment of the reenactment, because when they go into the room to see the white ball, it's like the most crudest special effect you can imagine. I don't know if it was like a practical effect or early bad CGI, but my God, was it horrible to see. It was amazing. A psychic, Jackie Littlejohn, also investigated the hotel. The owners of the hotel are certain that the ghosts of the Old West haunt their hotel. The hotel was built in 1880 and offered good food, attractive dancing girls, and comfortable beds for guests such as Jesse James, Bat Masterson, Annie Oakley, Doc Holliday, and Wyatt Earp. Ed Sitzberger contacted psychic Jackie Littlejohn to investigate the hotel. Jackie claims to communicate with the spirit world. Jackie sensed a gunshot wound, and the evidence of violence in the hotel was very strong. She visioned a poker game that turned deadly. She believes that one of the men killed in the poker game now haunts room 18 of the hotel. She says his name was T.J. Wright, and he won the hotel at the poker game just before he died. Ed found that in 1881, a man named T.J. Wright had in fact checked into the hotel 3 times. Yeah.
I seem to remember this. But also, this isn't the only case of a hotel being haunted like that with a haunted room. I seem to remember an episode where a similar situation happened, obviously not Old West, because this wasn't in the West, in Michigan. Creepy.
And I should note that from Wikipedia, Truth by Consensus Wikipedia, in January of 2009, the hotel was purchased by the Express UU Bar Ranch, a property of Express Ranches headquartered in Yukon, Oklahoma. Following extensive renovations where the formal dining room and bar were merged into one large area, and the outside deck and lawn became a walled-in courtyard and patio complete with a fountain, the hotel was reopened on June 22nd, 2009. So, man, maybe we should go to this hotel one day and check it out.
You go. I'm staying in the car, and I'm leaving the engine running.
Me too.
Yeah. Well, now we're getting to the stories that sort of inspired us to do this episode to begin with. I'm not going to say what's coming up from their ends, but taking a look at what they've told me they're going to cover, that was like the real genesis of this episode, as are the next 2 items I'm going to mention. The first one has to do with a gentleman named Danian Brinkley.
Oh, this is great.
Boy. Here we go.
Dannion. I think it's Dannon or maybe Danian. I don't know.
Danian Brinkley.
Okay. So go back to 1975. It was an amazing year. It was a great year. Personally, it was a great year for me. I can't speak for you two. This episode was actually featured on October 21st of 1994. Now, Daniel Brinkley lives in Aiken, South Carolina.
I know where that is.
Okay. And on September 17th of 1975, Mr. Brinkley, who was 25 years old at the time, was on the phone with his friend Tom. And while on the phone, he was struck by lightning and literally shot across the room. And I know when Greg saw this, the special effects made him laugh out loud.
Oh, I cried laughing for like 10 minutes when I saw that.
It was, yeah, if that's how lightning strikes are in real life, it's the most comedic way to go. Or, well, not necessarily go, as you're going to find out. Over 180,000 volts of electricity was shot through his body. Within seconds, he saw his wife Sandy trying to resuscitate him. He also saw his friend Tom arrive and try to help. He realized that he was actually floating above himself watching these events unfold. During this time, he was clinically dead. He soon embarked on a near-death experience. He walked down a tunnel and saw a form come out of a misty blue cloud. He then began to experience everything that had happened to him during his life. So he's literally like seeing his life before his eyes. He also was put into the place of every person he had encountered. He admits that during his childhood and young adult life, he was self-centered, mean, and a bully. During his experience, he was confronted by all of the people he had victimized over the years. He felt everything that they had gone through. Meanwhile, Daniel was rushed by ambulance to the hospital. In the emergency room, his breathing faltered and then stopped. Minutes later, his friend Tom was told that he was dead. Tom had difficulty accepting this. He went to the room where Daniel's body was placed. Suddenly, he saw the sheet over the body moving. Daniel said that at that point, he went from a spiritual place back to the physical world. Miraculously, he returned to life after being declared dead for 20 minutes. Danyon, however, was still in a grave condition. A week later, he was released but unable to walk or talk. His eyes were so light sensitive that he had to wear welder's glasses at the time. For 7 months, he remained partially paralyzed. It would take him another 2 years for him to learn how to walk and eat again.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah. When he was finally able to describe his near-death experience, he recalled being in a cathedral, a place of learning, with 13 beings. The beings approached him one at a time, showing him a box. Oh, suddenly we're playing Deal or No Deal, it looks like. Inside each box was an image of an event that would happen in the future. Altogether, he claimed to have witnessed 113 future occurrences, including the election of Ronald Reagan, the collapse of the Soviet Union, and the Gulf War in 1991. He shared his visions with several of his friends who verified that these predictions were made prior to the events unfolding. Danyon is convinced that his near-death experience brought about his psychic abilities. A year after the accident, he attended a lecture by Dr. Raymond Moody, who has studied near-death experiences. Moody has worked with him for several years since. He claims that in 1976, Danyon told him that the Soviet Union would fall in 1990. In the years since his experience, Danyon has used his psychic abilities to help others. One of his abilities is helping police investigators solve crimes. Danyon was able to help solve the 1993 murders of a Montana couple, John and Nancy Bosco. He accurately described the murderer, who was identified as Shadow Clark. In order to verify his psychic powers, Dr. William Ruhl observed Danyon in a series of tests. He gave readings for 8 people that he had never met before. He picked out certain details about the people that he would not have known. Dr. Ruhl was convinced that he was legitimate. Today, Danyon spends most of his time volunteering at hospices and nursing homes throughout the country. He believes that his experience has allowed him to be qualified to counsel others. Danyon, who was once a bully as a child, has completely changed his life to help people, all because of the lightning strike and his new psychic ability. And looks like he's still alive. He would be about 71 years old now.
That's old.
So he got his psychic powers from a lightning strike during a phone call.
That's weird.
It's very bizarre.
It is weird. But it's not weirder than getting a letter from somebody who knows something about you and you don't know anything about the letter writer. Mike, you know where Circleville, Ohio is, right?
What if I said I didn't?
Then I wouldn't hold it against you. It's a really small town, really small. It's like near Columbus, but not necessarily. It's in the middle of nowhere, basically.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now.
It's basically Letterkenny in Ohio.
Yeah, it looks like it's about maybe 25 to 30 miles south of Columbus.
Well, this particular case, it begins with a letter that was sent to Unsolved Mysteries. It says, "Forget Circleville, Ohio. Do nothing to hurt Sheriff Radcliffe. If you come to Ohio, you L sickos will pay. The Circleville writer." And that's how it began. But it actually began in 1976 when bus driver Mary Gillespie was accused of a supposedly non-existent affair with the superintendent of schools. She got a letter that said, "Stay away from Massey. Don't lie when questioned about knowing him. I know where you live. I've been observing," very hard handwriting, by the way, "your house and know you have children. This is no joke. Please take it serious. Everyone concerned has been notified and everything will be over soon. Mike, get out of the house." Anyway, the writer left a Columbus, Ohio postmark, but no return address. Within 8 days, Mary received a similar letter. She kept the letters to herself. However, Her husband received one as well, and it said, "Defender, you are also a pig, inform the school board, something on CBS, posters, sign, billboards, only pigs ride motorcycles." He basically said if Ron did not stop the wife's affair, his life would be in danger. After 2 weeks, the writer threatened to go public with the affair allegations, broadcasting it on TV, CB's, oh, not CBS, CB's. Mary and Ron only told 3 people about the letters: Ron's sister, her husband Paul Freshour, and Paul's sister. Mary had some ideas who might be sending the letters. They decided to have Paul write letters to the suspect, claiming they know who he or she was. The plan seemed to work. The letters stopped for several weeks. That changed on August 19th, 1977, when Ron received a phone call from the alleged writer, which seemed to confirm Ron's suspicions on the identity of the writer. He grabbed his gun and then left in his pickup truck, even though the writer claimed to be watching the truck. A few minutes later, Ron was found dead in his pickup truck, crashed into a tree. Investigators later learned that Ron had fired at least one shot from his gun before crashing. Sheriff Dwight Radcliffe questioned and eliminated at least one suspect in the case before ruling Ron's death an accident, claiming he lost control and crashed while driving drunk. Several residents soon received letters stating that Sheriff Radcliffe had been involved in a cover-up. According to Paul, Sheriff Radcliffe initially agreed that the death was the result of foul play. However, he changed his mind allegedly when the suspect passed a polygraph test. Ron's blood alcohol level was 0.16, twice the legal limit. However, many of Ron's friends and family were surprised by this because they didn't think he was a heavy drinker. Mary and the superintendent later acknowledged the relationship, although they claim it did not start until after the letters were sent. In February of 1983, Mary was harassed along her bus route. The letter writer apparently began placing threatening signs next to the road. One day, Mary had enough and decided to go and rip the sign down, and when she did, she discovered a booby trap designed to kill her. Trap had a box which contained a small pistol. Mary had pulled the sign off a certain way. The gun would have fired. An amateurish attempt was made to rub off the serial number on the gun, but when lab tests were able to raise the number, it was determined that the gun had belonged to Paul Freshour, who had recently separated from Ron's sister. Paul, however, claimed the gun had been stolen. On February 25th, 1983, Sheriff Radcliffe asked Paul to meet with him and take a handwriting test. Sheriff Radcliffe also had him write the letters while repeating them verbally. Paul took Sheriff Radcliffe to his garage and showed him where he kept his gun. Afterwards, the two returned to the courthouse where Paul was arrested and charged with attempted murder. He did go on trial, and although he was never charged with writing the threatening letters, they became a crucial part of the evidence against him. A handwriting expert testified that Paul was the letter writer. Mary also testified that she believed he was the writer after his wife visited her with the same suspicion. Proclaiming his innocence, he was convicted and given a 7 to 24 year sentence. And while there, he received letters from the writer determined to keep him there. So I have this letter right here. Freshour, now when are you going to believe you aren't getting out of there? I told you 2 years ago when we set them up. They stay set up. Don't you listen at all? No one wants you out. No one. The joke is on you. Ha ha. Tell no one of this letter. I saw the paper. Great news. Great. The sheriff loved it. Ha ha. Others also received letters postmarked from Columbus, even though he was in prison in Lima. Even though he was in solitary confinement, letters kept arriving. In December of 1990, Paul became eligible for parole. He was denied the parole due to the letters. And in 1994, Paul was finally paroled, and he continues to maintain his innocence. However, the authors of the letters was never revealed. Now, a journalist has investigated the story and found another possible suspect that could be the writer. Another bus driver on Mary's route had seen a suspicious man standing next to a yellow El Camino. The man was at the same spot where the trap was later to be found, and the possible suspect's brother owned that same type of car. However, the description does not match Paul, and he has a solid alibi at this specific time. The identity of the writer was never revealed. However, recent information suggested that there were at least 3 letter writers involved in the case, none of whom were Paul. One was believed to be the son of the superintendent, whom Mary had an affair with. The second was believed to be a coworker who was infatuated with Mary. And the third was believed to be Ron's sister. It's believed that the ex-wife's boyfriend was the man seen next to the El Camino on the day the booby trap was discovered. One of her relatives had owned that type of car at the time, and despite the evidence, the police still maintain that Paul was the Circleville writer. If this sounds familiar and you're a fan of drunk history, that's why. And Paul Freshour, by the way, perished in 2012, who, after maintaining a blog about this subject for several years. He never found out the identity of the Circleville writer. That is creepy.
Wow.
That is some creepy-ass shit.
Well, you know what else is some creepy-ass shit?
What else is some creepy-ass shit?
Spontaneous combustion.
Oh, boy.
Oh,
You know,
no.
yeah. So this is a segment from the episode that aired March 14th, 1997, Season 9, Episode 14. So this covers 3 cases of spontaneous combustion. And this was such a memorable segment that even Vice did an article about this segment of Unsolved Mysteries, because this scared the hell out of so many people. We first meet Kay Fletcher, the wife of Mike Fletcher. Just after 9 a.m. on the morning of February 11th, 1996, she notices a puff of smoke from her sweater and pulled it off thinking it was on fire. Mike checked her back, but despite being a little red, there was no apparent cause for the smoke. He noticed that there was a smell of burned human flesh. They now believe she was the victim of spontaneous human combustion. So in the reenactment, you see steam coming off the sweater of Kay Fletcher, and she takes it off and her shirt.
Ooh, sexy.
She said they looked through the clothing and they found no discoloration or any fire damage. The smoke, they said, was so thick they had to open a window. The next case we have is George Mott. George Mott was a retired fireman that suffered from lung problems and required an air mask and a pump to breathe. On March 26, 1986, his son Kendall visited him after he had not answered repeated phone calls. Kendall found all the windows browned and the interior smoked. Inside his bedroom, he found what was left of George. His remains consisted of ash, a few splinters of bone, and a fragment of his skull. The very localized damage suggested that he had died from spontaneous combustion, a situation that has yet to be explained. The damage to his body was similar to that of what is done at a crematorium. So, yeah, one of the experts said that the burning could only be replicated in a crematorium operating at 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit or more for over 12 hours. The searing heat had melted a television in the room. However, much of the bedding was unscathed. Just a few feet from the bed, a box of wooden matches failed to ignite. Air was still pumping from George's air mask. And despite this, scientists believe that there is a rational explanation for his death. Joe Nickel noted that George was a former drinker and smoker. He believes that he was depressed and decided to smoke a cigar or cigarette. If he dropped it on himself, it could have caused him to accidentally set himself on fire.
Well, that would actually make sense.
Yes. But here we go. Here we have one more in this segment. The case of Irving Bentley. On December 5th, 1966, a gas company meter man named Don Gosnell went to the home of 92-year-old Irving Bentley, a retired physician. He went into the basement when he found a pile of ashes on the floor. There was a strange odor in the room. When he looked up, he discovered a hole in the basement ceiling. There were red embers around it. He went upstairs to the bathroom and discovered what was left of the remains of Irving, his metal walker, part of his head, and part of his leg and a boot. Everything else had turned to ash. Irving had apparently died of a fire hot enough to burn through the floor, but not potent enough to claim the whole house. It also was unable to melt his walker or blister paint on the nearby bathtub. To date, the cause of it has defied explanation. Skeptics believe that his pipe might have been the cause, as he had a history of setting his clothes on fire with it. He also had a habit of keeping matches in his bathrobe pockets. Many, however, believe that spontaneous human combustion is to blame. Some also believe that natural electric currents in the body could cause these fires. What do we think about these cases of spontaneous combustion?
Sounds like somebody's keeping a secret stash. Just get it? Secret stash?
Yeah. But man, that lady with the clothes on fire, that is such a hilariously bad reenactment.
Yes, it is. I've seen better reenactments on 1,000 Ways to Die, being honest. Which, by the way, is not a future installment.
Okay, now we're getting to the nitty gritty here.
The creme de la creepy.
Yeah. And I'll start it off with the story of one Mary Clancer. This episode aired on March 29th of 1996. This actually begins on August 17th of 1994. For 23 years, 44-year-old Oklahoma City resident Mary Clancer has battled with multiple sclerosis, a degenerative nerve disease. She was first diagnosed with the disease in 1972 when she was 19 and engaged to be married to Ron Clancer. As a result, she was unable to move or feel her legs. She was told that she would never be able to walk again or have children. Faced with a tragic future, Mary felt that she had to end her engagement with Ron because she didn't want to put him through that. However, Ron said that he would love her no matter what, and that they would be married for better or for worse. Aww. 2 weeks before the wedding, the disease relented enough for Mary to be able to walk down the aisle. However, the MS soon returned. Despite this, she wanted to live the best life possible with Ron. Over the next 10 years, she struggled through 3 difficult pregnancies, but she was still able to give birth to her 2 sons and daughter. Mary's family adjusted as best as they could to her MS. In the summer of 1992, however, the MS came back worse than before.
Oh.
Over a year later, the MS was still causing her great pain. Then, during a thunderstorm on August 17th of 1994, Mary stepped into a bathtub and was struck by lightning.
Oh!
What is it with me getting all the stories about people being struck by lightning?
I don't know. I guess you live right.
2 straight stories involving a bathtub.
And lightning. Is anybody going to mention the lightning?
Yeah, I've had 2 straight stories of lightning. At least 10,000 volts of electricity went through her body. The force threw her across the room. And this actually may have even been funnier than the Daniel Brinkley being thrown across the room we mentioned earlier. This one I actually found very funny. I apologize to Miss Clancer if she happens to be listening. She survived the lightning strike and was sent to the emergency room. Amazingly, while the doctors were working on her, she began to feel them touching her legs. She was shocked, as for 23 years, she could not feel her left leg, and for 2 years, could not feel her right leg. Miraculously, the lightning strike had put Mary's MS into remission. Although she was in pain for the next few weeks, she was happy that she could feel her legs. Then 2 weeks after the lightning strike, she was able to get up from her chair and walk across the room without any support. Within just a year, she was able to walk long distances again without any leg braces or support. She now exercises regularly and lives a completely normal life. No one has any idea how Mary's MS was cured through lightning, but she believes it was a miracle. Now, here's a side note. Listen to this. And this may actually be a callback to Daniel that we talked about earlier, the psychic.
Uh-huh.
On April 19th of 1995, Mary canceled an appointment at the Oklahoma City Federal Building to do an interview about the miracle in Los Angeles. That was the day the Oklahoma City bombing happened.
Ooh.
Yeah. And then also, even more interesting, Mary's MS later returned, and she was again confined to a wheelchair. Amazingly, in 2005, she was outside when she was again struck by lightning. Once again, her MS went into remission, and she is able to walk again. Now she has a special room in her house to protect her from any further lightning strikes. Sadly, Mary's husband Ron passed away in 2016, and their son Christopher has also since passed away.
Oh, that's a sad story. That's sad.
It's sad, but it's happy. But yeah, there's something about lightning strikes. You become psychic, or your MS goes away, and who knows?
Well, one thing that doesn't happen when you're struck by lightning is that you get rained on. But that would happen to a person named Don Decker. On February 24th, 1983, this episode, by the way, aired on February 10th, 1993, so approximately 10 years before this episode aired, a funeral was held in Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania, for a 63-year-old by the name of James Kishaw. His 21-year-old grandson, Don Decker, had been granted a furlough from the county jail to attend the funeral. He was serving 4 to 10 months for receiving stolen property. What he had not told people is that James had physically abused him since he was 7. He felt that the evil in his life was finally gone. However, it apparently did not leave, but instead manifested that night. Don angered his parents, glorifying James. Decided to stay the night with his friends Bob and Jeannie Keffer. While at their home, he had an uneasy, chilled feeling overcome him. Suddenly, water began to drip from the walls, and he fell into an eerie, trance-like state. After the water started dripping from the ceiling, the Keffers decided to notify their landlord, Ron Van Wy, and when he arrived, he was surprised at the amount of water coming out of nowhere. At first, they thought it was a plumbing problem until they realized that there was no pipes in the front end of the house. They also noticed that the water was not just falling downwards, it was also coming up from the floor and moving sideways. Ron called his wife Lorraine and the police. Officers John Bojan and Richard Walbert went to the home and were shocked by the amount of water coming from nowhere. They were also surprised when they saw it traveling horizontally. Even more strange was the phenomenon was occurring in the living room.
It's coming from the house!
It's coming from inside the house! So right after the rest of the Keffers went across the street to a restaurant, Ron and Romaine decided to stay behind, and the rain and mist completely disappeared. Felt that one of the people that was left was connected to the mysterious rain. 23 hours had now passed since it began. The Keffers and Don arrived at the restaurant, which was owned by Pam Scrofano, who had visited the home earlier, wishes the rain firsthand. Suddenly, rain started falling in the restaurant.
Oh!
Pam gave him a crucifix, which started to burn him. She told him to contact the church to perform an exorcism. One of the officers returned to the home, gave him a crucifix, which burns his hand. The rain appeared, and he was thrown across the room again. The officers then noticed 3 claw marks on his neck with blood coming from them. The officers involved still can't explain what they saw. And finally, on the 3rd night, Ron convinced an evangelical preacher to come and attempt an exorcism. Other priests and ministers had turned it down, but when the preacher began to pray, Don began to convulse violently. Those present seemed to notice a different feeling in the home. At the end of the prayer, the rain stopped and never appeared in the Keffer home again. But a few days later, Don was returned to jail to finish his sentence, and while he was back there, the rain materialized again. His cellmate was drenched in water. 2 guards and a janitor reported seeing rain. Don felt like he could not control it. One guard told him to make it rain in the warden's office, and just moments later, water appeared on the warden's shirt. So, a reverend was sent to the jail to meet with Don. A smell of death came through the room, and he witnessed the rain appear in the area as well. It did so at Don's command. The reverend opened his Bible, and it did not get wet. He prayed for him, and the rain stopped. The reverend also performed a ceremony on him. Eventually, mysteriously as the rain began, it stopped. It has not occurred since, but Don and the various witnesses still do not have an explanation for it. However, he believes that it has something to do with James's abuse. By the way, James reportedly abused Don as a child. Paranormal investigators believe that it was genuine. Unfortunately, this case remains unresolved. Don was arrested and charged with arson in 2012. And although the incident was unrelated to the 83 happenings, the new arrest makes him appear less credible. One researcher noticed that the incident in the Keffer home may be the result of ice damming on the attic and roof, and believes that the melted ice may have entered the home, causing strange phenomena. Although many are convinced that the incident was a hoax, others are certain that an unknown supernatural force was behind it. One of the things you got to remember, it wasn't just in the house. It wasn't just in the house. It was in the jail, it was in the restaurant, and it was on a warden's shirt. So you tell me.
All right. Here we go, folks.
Last but not least.
This one's the big one.
Oh, the big one. Now, I first heard about this case from an Unsolved Mysteries podcast called Perhaps It's You. And I listened to it and I thought, this is so nuts, I gotta watch it for myself. And it's just like the most unbelievable, hilariously bad thing I've ever seen in my life. This is the segment about the Magic Rock. Originally aired on November 23rd, 1988, Season 1, Episode 9. On Saturday, May 14th, 1988, 13-year-old Jamie Parks and his friend Trevor Johnson went into the woods in Washington State near the Canadian border and found a bizarre rock with strange, cryptic, alien-like drawings on it. Trevor told his parents, Steve and Patty, about their discovery. At the time, the Johnsons were struggling to pay the bills and risking everything on a small dress shop that was opening in a new mall. Patty took a second job as a receptionist to pay for their rent, while Steve worked as a prison corrections officer. She later quit her job to open the store. However, this backfired when construction on the dress shop fell behind. After learning of the rock, Steve hiked to the spot with Trevor and was also interested in it. Now get ready, folks. 2 days later, the Johnsons' luck began to change for the better when their dress shop was completed and began to flourish. And also, at the same time, Steve took a job working at a movie theater within the mall. And you're not going to believe this, folks. After less than a month of working in the movie theater in the mall, this one-screen movie theater where they're playing Willow.
I loved that movie.
Yeah. The mall management was so impressed with the job Steve did that in 1 month, they said, we're going to let you buy the theater outright at a very low cost. How does that happen, folks? How do you buy a one-screen movie theater?
It's 1988. Who knows? One-screen movie theaters were all over the place.
Yeah, this is around the time multiplexes became a thing. But yeah, I mean, I remember even in 1988 going to one-screen theaters.
And you're not going to believe this, folks, but also they opened another store in the mall. A candy store. And guess what happened, guys?
What happened?
That store was a success, too. How else do you explain all this success? What do you think?
Location, location, location.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Location and maybe a good sense of business acumen, maybe? I don't know.
Well, also, they were able to acquire a new home, and they finally attained property that eluded them for years. And guess what, guys? They were able to get the house rent-free.
What?
for 4 years. That all this success that can only be explained to one thing. They looked at the magic rock, and the magic rock decided, you know what? Steve Johnson, you need to have a lot of success. You need to be successful in this dress shop. You're gonna end up buying a movie theater for very cheap. You're gonna open another candy shop in the mall for great success, and then you're gonna get a new house from all the success, rent free. They believe that their turnaround was due to finding the rock. However, an archaeologist disagrees. After the archaeologist studied it, he determined the markings were not made by American Indians, as commonly believed, and that they date to the 20th century at its earliest. Whatever the origin of the rock, the Johnsons have been grateful to Trevor and Jamie Parks for finding it while exploring. So you know what, guys? I think we need to take a visit to Washington State and try to find this magic rock. Who knows what powers this rock has?
Do you know where this rock is?
Well, it's somewhere near, well, it says Washington State near the Canadian border in the woods, and try to find this rock.
Okay.
Well, come on, guys. Wouldn't you like to be rich just by looking
I would
at a
like
rock?
to by just looking at a rock?
Yeah.
Yes, I would.
Yes. And who knows what this power can do? We don't know the extent of this power. And what has happened in the 30 plus years with the Johnsons since the magic rock?
It's like, who knows who could have gotten rich with this magic rock?
Maybe they showed it to Jeff Bezos, and maybe that's why he's so rich.
Maybe.
Who knows?
Yeah, it's possible.
This magic rock. I think this is probably the greatest. This is the greatest segment, I think, of it. My favorite segments in the history of Unsolved Mysteries. Just unbelievable.
Well, I think that's just about it for this installment.
Yeah, and who knows what could come down the line now that Unsolved Mysteries seems to be a success on Netflix. I mean, you have America's Most Wanted, a bit of Fantasy Island, a bit of Mysteries of the Unknown. You put it all together, and it was a thing on TV. And it still is a thing on TV.
Anybody have any idea how to close the show?
Oh, I know how we're going to close this.
How are we going to close this?
All right, I'll do the roar, and then we'll have Robert Stack do the closing end of every Unsolved Mysteries episode.
Oh, well, there you go. There's one more mystery that's solved. Thanks a lot, everybody.
Wow!
For every mystery, there is someone, somewhere, who knows the truth. Perhaps that someone is watching. Perhaps it's you.
You see, that was the joke, is the unsolved mystery is how we're going to end the show, and Craig solved the mystery.
I knew we were trying to incorporate that. I just didn't know how.
The magic rock. I don't think there's nothing more that needs to be said, folks. That is just amazing. And one day, we will try to visit that magic rock, and hopefully we can get rich. But man, we got some good stuff here on Place to Be Nation Pop in the last week. In the 28th episode of Laugh-In Theater, Andy Afferton was joined by Steve Bennett from the Sportscasters to do a live watch of the 1986 Rodney Dangerfield classic Back to School Hey, tie-in with previous entry, Where's Rodney? Where's Rodney? The guys discussed bad report cards, William Zabka's filmography, the importance of Polaroids, weird roommates, widgets, Sam Kinnison's greatness, required reading, 80s toys, changes to the legal drinking age, Wurlitzer jukeboxes, tournaments, school mascots, college deans, tall girls, and the physics of the triple Lindy. So remember, don't joke about dyes, and that's what I call marine biology. Say it, say it, say it. And on the latest episode of Laugh-In Theater, Andy was joined by Tim Capel, Jacob Williams, James Grunberg, and Miranda Berthold to do a live watch of the 1998 comedy classic Can't Hardly Wait as they discuss 90s stereotypes, strawberry Pop-Tarts, impoverished actors signing yearbooks, Smash Mouth, graduating class sizes, Wasting Flavor, Enormous Jeans, Creepy Cousins, Hot Foreign Exchange Students, Whippets, Wine Coolers, Stage Fright, Watermelon Caressing, and Night Masks. Also, be sure to check out the PTPN wrestling feed, which includes a dive into topics running the gamut from today's WWE through yesteryear. Feed includes Place to Be Podcast, Main Event, Jenny and the Gems, Body Pressure Lock, PTP NXT, the NWA Saturday Special, and so much more. Subscribe today. And while you're at it, subscribe to Jennifer Smith's The Jenny Position feed as well. It is the home of Geek and Sassy, Talkin' Pop, Freak Out Driving, The Journey Through Infinity, Telling Stories and more. And check out the North-South Connection, brought to you by JT Rosero, Chad Campbell, and Aaron George. It is the home for Wrestling Warzone, No Holds Barred, the Extreme 3-Way Dance, the Ruthlessly Aggressive Podcast, Carolina Dreaming, Jeff Learns Wrestling, and more. And on the social media pages, the greatest song from a movie tournament is going on. You can keep tabs to the tournament Facebook page for details. And we have kicked off the 2020 stretch project going on right now at the Place to Be Nation, determining the greatest WCW match ever. You have until the end of the year to do research, promote matches, and build your list. Conversation and the rules can be found at www.facebook.com/GWCW matches or on the PWO message board. And be sure not to forget to check out PlaceToBeNation.com each and every day. We have new voices and fresh takes, bring you articles on topics in the worlds of wrestling, sports, and pop culture, including Trent, SmackDown, and Fox Report. This Week in the WWE by John Crow, Steve Riddle's Wonderful World of Disney Reviews, Paulie's Perspective, Matt's Live-Action Disney Movie Reviews, and Ben's Unpopular Opinion. And don't forget about veteran columns like Glenn Butler's Wednesday Walk Around the Web. And if you're doing online shopping at Amazon.com, be sure to click on the Amazon banner on the right side of the Place to Be Nation homepage, or use www.placetobenation.com/Amazon. It'll take you right to Amazon and helps out PTPN at no cost to you. Okay, so now we get into our second and final topic of the day as we look at a short-lived CBS primetime game show from 1992 covering the movies and television. It was hosted by a legend from Entertainment Tonight fame, Mr. Bob Gowen, and it's called The Hollywood Game. So let's say hooray for Hollywood. As we look at The Hollywood Game right now.
Episode 78, Submission 1397, The Hollywood Game. The Hollywood Game aired on CBS from June 19th to July 10th, 1992, for a total of 6 episodes, 2 of which went unaired.
This is where the open of a show might go, but unfortunately, there's no complete introductions out there. So, I'll just give you my rendition of the open. Hooray for Hollywood! Da-da-da-da-da-da, Hollywood!
Interesting you say that. They actually sampled the Hooray for Hollywood in the theme music. If you could
That's why
hear
I
it,
said that.
if you could hear it over the audience. Thank you, Brain. Okay. Now, friends, you look at the amount of game shows that airs on any given summer over the last 5 years, and you would probably think that game shows in the summertime, a new phenomenon. Right?
Nope.
But no.
No. No, well, obviously, it's not a new phenomenon because, as we all know, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire debuted in the summer of 1999.
Yep, and changed the game quite literally. Let's just say you won't see Who Wants to Be a Millionaire on this show, unless you count the Millionaire Ripoffs episode that we did earlier this year.
Oh no, you're wrong, because we're going to cover the last season of Syndicated Millionaire. I believe it's later this year when we cover shows that lasted one season too long.
Oh, but yes. But enough about what I did in Vegas one summer. Let's go back to 1992, where it seems like we were at the pinnacle of 90s entertainment, or at least crossbreeding 80s and 90s entertainment to, I guess, be in that butter zone. What came out that summer? A League of Their Own, Honey, I Blew Up the Kid, Batman Returns.
Yes.
Well, now I got to add something, Chico. You said that we're talking about the only good thing about that last season of Millionaire was that thing you did a couple summers ago. Excuse me. One of us was actually in the contestant pool. So, I had my opportunity, but nope, let's cancel the show.
We know you won't shut up about it.
There's several other shows that are coming up which could be filed under that as well.
Disney was like, "No, we need to have a talk show with Tamron Hall in this spot."
But even though we all know what kind of baggage she has, but anyway, so let's go back to 1992. CBS has a programming hole to fill. Why not fill it with a quick game centered around movies and television, hosted by, who can we get on short notice? Oh, I know! The guy who used to host Wheel of Fortune for us.
Yeah, who also would have been hosting around that time future installment Born Lucky.
Mm-hmm. He even looks and sounds Hollywood. And of course, later on in the decade, he would inherit the post on Entertainment Tonight. Bob Goen is just perfect for the host job on a game show about entertainment. He's just perfect.
Yes, it's like a marriage made in heaven.
Yeah. So you have the Hollywood Game, created by the Pasetta brothers in 1992, and it went to pilot that May with an Australian singer by the name of, was it Peter Allen, Mike?
Peter Allen.
Yeah, Peter Allen.
Peter Allen, yeah.
And his name may come up in the future because Peter Allen, in addition to this, hosted another game show pilot in the early 90s, hosting a pilot for Name That Tune. But we'll get to that a little bit later, I think.
And actually, a musical about his life was made on Broadway a couple of years ago with Hugh Jackman in the role.
The Boy from Oz?
Yes.
That was a good musical.
Hey, if you have Wolverine in it, it's got to be good.
Hugh Jackman's a great singer. Let me just tell you that right now.
Oh yeah, The Greatest Showman, classic.
Mm-hmm. That soundtrack was. I'm going to quote. I believe it was either Space Force or Never Have I Ever. The movie sucked, but that soundtrack was straight fire.
Hey, I could listen to Zendaya all day.
Mm-hmm. Everybody could. Anyway, Peter Allen, he hosted the pilot. However, he died of AIDS-related throat cancer one day before the show premiered. It's like he couldn't go on to the series because he was getting sicker and sicker, and the day before the show premiered, he died. It's really sad. So, we get Bob Goen. He steps into the hosting role, and just couldn't have done a better job, I think. Had the look, had the panache, had that swagger, and more important than that, he knew how to be the conduit.
Oh, yes.
So, how do you play the Hollywood game? Well, the Hollywood game is played with 9 topics, each one represented by a letter in the Hollywood sign, which is in the back of the stage. It's stage back, dead center, just the epicenter of the action there. And each letter had a topic, and those were the 9 topics for the entire game. In the pilot, those were randomized. However, you had a choice in the actual game. The first round had 2 topics played with 2 questions each worth $100 and $200. By the way, you're playing in teams of 2. In round 2, you have 3 questions and 3 topics worth $200, $400, and $800. Round 3 was just like round 2, except you have questions worth $500, $1,000, and 2,000. Then you have, I guess, the final round of regulation, the double feature round, where you are given the topic of 2 clips. And then you are to bet either all, half, or none of your current bank. And then you're shown the 2 clips and asked 1 question about it. And if you answer the question correctly, and you have the most money at the end of the game, you win the game and go on to the Fast Picture round, where you could win another $25,000. Yes, apparently CBS had all the money in the world to throw at this because both teams kept their bank at the end of the game. Whew.
Unless they lost all of it in the final round.
Yeah, unless there is that. Now, the final round is called the Fast Picture round, where you and your partner had to identify 9 movies from 9 stills in a given subject, such as Men in Uniform, Barbra Streisand films, Meryl Streep films, I believe, was one of the most exciting bonus rounds. But yeah, it is 9 clips. Now, it's not 30 seconds, just like 30 seconds for both of them. It's 15 seconds for one player and 15 seconds for another. And after, yeah, it's kind of complicated. It's like the first player gets their 15 seconds and has to start identifying films. And when the time goes double zeros, you stop where you are, and your partner cannot see that film until, they go back to the ones you passed on. Because you can pass if you're stuck. In fact, you probably should pass if you are stuck. That's just good life advice.
And if you think about it, it's really no different than Fast Money on Family Feud. Except, obviously you get to play the same questions, but yeah. So, 15 seconds to one person, 15 seconds to the other.
Yeah, if only there was a movie that was titled Chair.
Oh, God. I can imagine Greg on the Hollywood game. Chair. Horse. Gorilla.
Chair. Oh, no.
Chair. Oh.
Hey, guys.
Chair.
Guys, you want to hear a joke?
Uh-huh.
Do you know what my favorite Tears for Fears album is?
The Chair.
Songs from the Big Chair.
Oh, God. Why am I laughing?
Oh, jeez. I'm trying to stay on point here.
Okay.
Trying is the key word.
Yeah. Well, okay. So once your clock goes double zeros, you had to stop. You could not give your partner that same film. Your partner started from the next film and then had to come back to the ones that were passed or skipped or whatever or what have you, and had to identify those films in the 15 seconds. And it was basically like basketball. It's like you start on a title and the clock hits double zeros, you are allowed to finish it. In fact, again, from that episode, from the finale, that's exactly how they won the 25,000. And this isn't winners augmented to 25,000. It is 25,000 in addition to what you won in the main game. Because like I said before, CBS apparently had money to burn in the early 1990s. This is the same network that put The Flash up against Bill Cosby and Bart Simpson. They had money to burn.
Future installment, The Flash 1990.
Thank you.
Who was recently on the Crisis on Infinite Earths crossover on the CW.
Seen it.
The bonus game, if you think about it, really is very similar to what Couch Potatoes did, just with movies. They showed you a still from a movie, and you got to be really good at it. I'm going to be honest, because, as Chico said, one of the bonus rounds was Meryl Streep films, and I think on the pilot it was Dustin Hoffman films. And I mean, some of the photos you can recognize, like for Dustin Hoffman, you know which one was from The Graduate, and you knew which one was from Tootsie. But then it's like, okay, how do you necessarily know which one is from Papillon? Just a sort of saying. So, yeah, they were really good players. I wonder if one of the big issues, besides, as Chico said, the whole basically handing out money issue, is also the cost of the rights for the movies and the images. Because they showed clips, and unless they kept it all within the CBS family, which I highly doubt.
Well, Mike, just to note that CBS at the time didn't own Paramount Pictures through Viacom, because you got to remember, in 1992, they wouldn't have even been bought out by Westinghouse yet until around 94 or 95, and Paramount Pictures didn't get bought by Viacom until 94, considering at the time Paramount was still owned by Gulf and Western.
Yeah, and aside from that, something they did, like in the last 2 minutes of the show, was basically show previews of all of the movies that were coming out that week. Because this was a Friday night show.
Yeah, and when do all the movies open? Friday.
Friday, yeah. So I guess the idea was, you watch the show I think it was at 8 o'clock, and then at 8:30, you run out to the movie. You run out to the, I guess they were up to 3 screens at the time, and see what was coming out.
Yeah, we didn't have a one-screen theaters. That was gone by the time that Unsolved Mysteries episode came out.
I remember that episode it was 3 days ago.
I'm sure the Johnson family purchased a multiplex thanks to the Magic Rock.
Never doubt the Magic Rock.
Nope.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah, in fact, I love that one of the movies, and one of the movie posters in the background is the movie Toy Soldiers, featuring...
I think you should all be nicer to Will Wheaton.
The way I treat my colleagues... Wait, what?
I said you ought to be nicer to Will Wheaton.
You mean Will Wheaton?
Yes, Will Wheaton.
Why are you saying it like that?
Well, I'm just saying you should be nicer to Will Wheaton. Will Wheaton seems like a nice guy.
Say wheat.
Wheat.
Now, say Will Wheaton.
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 Hey, did you hook up with Whoopi Goldberg on the show?
All the time.
So, the Hollywood game, you know what? We've talked about the game. We've talked about the host. One thing we have not talked about was the set.
Oh, it's great.
It was classic Hollywood. You had the Hollywood sign.
Oh.
You had the big video wall. Right behind Bob Goen, you had the pictures of the
movie posters, as I mentioned with Toy Soldiers. Yeah, you had all the movies that were coming out at the time. You had like your Batman Returns. You had your Honey, I Blew Up the Kid.
League of Their Own.
Yes.
One other thing we should mention is the announcer of the Hollywood game.
Oh yeah, an unknown.
Yeah, relatively unknown at the time. The first show that one John Kramer announced. And if you don't know who John Kramer is, man, watch like any TV show from like the last, 25 years at this point. What hasn't he done? He did Weakest Link. He's done Pyramid. He does right now Funny You Should Ask. You know the voice.
He did he did previous installment, the 21 revival from 2000.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, he is, dare I say, the voice of the last 25 years, but he's definitely one of the big voices of the last 25 years.
He's Oh, wait a minute. He also was the announcer on Comics Unleashed.
Yep, he was basically... John Kramer's basically the in-house announcer for Byron Allen's EntertainmentStudios.com, plan.
Yeah, eventually Byron Allen will own us all.
Yeah.
He doesn't own everything right now?
No, not
he
yet.
almost owns everything, okay.
He owns the booth for the Newlywed Dating Hour back in 1996-97, which may or may not be. You know what? I'm going to put it on the list. I'm going to put it on that.
Wait, he owns the booth?
Yeah, he was the announcer for the Newlywed Dating Hour.
Oh, I thought you were talking about Byron Allen. It's like
No.
Okay.
Oh, I was talking about John Kramer.
Yeah, I got that now.
Yeah, I thought you were talking about Byron Allen. But yeah, I do remember John Kramer on Dating Game, Newlywed Game at that time.
So So we had a really good host. We had a glitzy set. The game wasn't much to be desired, so what could I? And it was gone after 4 episodes. So what happened?
Well, I don't know. It's just game shows back then in the summer were like, in prime time no less. It was like, I mean, we talked about Super Jeopardy back in early January about how how unusual it was to watch a primetime game show in the summer back in 1990, and this is like 2 years later.
Yeah, let's remember that game shows were really on the downswing in 1992. So maybe a little case of bad timing, because I mean, what game shows would have been on the air
in 1992?
Time? Well, besides the obvious, Price is Right and Jeopardy and Wheel of Fortune.
Family Feud.
Yeah, Family Feud.
Family Feud on CBS and daytime in syndication.
And then you had classic concentration reruns.
Yeah.
Caesar's Challenge wouldn't be for another year.
Right. So yeah, there just was like a dearth of game shows.
Yeah, it's like the whole game show environment would be relegated to cable and or syndication.
Yeah. So that may be a reason why it died, just because game shows were on the downturn at that point. But also, let's remember, Friday night, not really the best night for television, unless you're doing TGIF. Oh, there might be another reason why it died.
TGIF.
TGIF, right there.
Yeah. Even in the summer, America wants their Urkel.
Damn right.
No joke. But also, again, Friday night is typically movie night. And I'm sorry, a game show about movies, I get it. But the thing is, usually when I go see a movie, not that I go out to see movies all that often, but I usually go to like the 7:30 show or the 8 o'clock show. I don't wait till like 9:30 or 10 o'clock and say, hey, I'm going to go to the late night showing of, whatever, Boomerang or whatever would have been out at that time.
Yeah.
White Men Can't Jump.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We would still be, 10, 15 years away from regularly scheduling midnight shows on Fridays and Saturdays?
Something like that.
Yeah. In that range, yeah.
Like, I don't remember the midnight movie showings being like a thing until like late 2000s.
Yeah, I think the very first midnight show I remember going to was the original Sam Raimi Spider-Man.
That was 2002.
Yeah, so there you go.
Okay.
See, I was even thinking, well, yeah, it would have been sometime in the 2000s, but I just remember my sister going to every Harry Potter movie at midnight.
That would also have... Actually, that would have begun in 2001, if I'm not mistaken. Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone.
Sorcerer's Stone, because
I went all British there for a second. Sorry.
In Britain, for some reason, it's the Philosopher's Stone. In America, we just said, you know what, sorcerer, that's fine.
Was that Francesca there? Sorcerer.
Sorcerer.
Yeah.
Sorcerer.
Who cares about the title? Philosopher's Stone, Sorcerer's Stone. Get lost, will ya? That's Mike Francesa if he was a Warner Brothers executive around 2001.
There you go.
So.
Oh boy.
Oh my gosh. So.
Saucer.
What the fuck
You need to have a whole. You need to have more than one film. You need to have a whole series. You need to have at least 7. You got to have everybody come back for each one of them.
And not only that, but I think in this bonus round, fellas, you got to have like 9 pictures of movies with horses. You got to have like your Natural Velvet and your
Secretariat.
Secretariat, of course. You know I met Secretariat. Did you know I met Secretariat, Mike?
So I've heard.
Oh, I got an even better one.
Oh,
round. Are you ready?
Okay. I'm afraid is what I am.
9 movies of stills of movies with gorillas.
Mighty Joe Young, King Kong.
King Kong.
Planet of the Apes. Return to the Planet of the Apes.
King Kong. King Kong.
Out of the Planet of the Apes.
King Kong 1976.
Yeah, King Kong 2005 with Jack Black.
So, whoever requested the Hollywood game, I hope you're enjoying this.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
I mean, everybody likes movies. Everybody likes TV. Everybody loved Bob Gowen. He still has a career on the radio, but it's a career.
He's on the radio now?
Yeah, he's in Cincinnati, or at least he was.
Oh.
Yeah. And for 4 lovely weeks during the summer of 1992, he took us to the movies and took us to television. It could have worked, but at the end of the day, it was just a thing on TV.
Boy, was it ever. It was a footnote in history.
It was a footnote in Bob Gowen and John Kramer's career. And the Pasetta brothers. We can't forget about those Pasetta brothers. They were ahead of their time with catchphrase, you know.
Yeah, I was going to say, Marty Pasetta Bros catchphrase, so he's not a bum by any stretch of the imagination.
Oh, no! Well, he's big in England. He also did a lot of award shows. God bless that man.
Yeah, he's no longer with us, sadly.
You know. But unless you think that this is all we have time for, hey, guess what I got?
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah! It's eBay Price is Right time, son!
Okay, so what am I bidding on?
Okay, now, Greg, I showed this to Mike earlier.
Yeah, I saw this previously, so I'm declaring myself ineligible.
Yeah. So you are bidding on 3 original audience tickets to the Hollywood game.
Okay.
It's the Hollywood game, a new movie trivia game show hosted by Bob Gowen. Cash door prizes from CBS Television Network, Pasetta Productions, Rastar Productions, from the now historic Studio 33.
Okay.
Pre-validated parking and early arrival is advised. These are 3 tickets. These are June 6th, 2 shows, and June 7th, 1 show. They did.
Okay.
That was quick. Those are quick turnaround. That's
Yeah.
a quick turnaround.
Well, remember the movies have to be they have to be current with the movies that are coming out.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
So good on them for that.
Okay.
Okay. Mike's going to put 30 seconds on the clock.
Okay.
And we're gonna play
Ding.
the clock game.
Okay.
Okay, ding, ding.
Okay.
Oh,
You're gonna play the clock-
it has to be given my first bid, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Okay. The clock will not start until your first bid.
Okay. $49.99.
Lower.
$39.99.
Lower.
$29.99.
Lower.
$19.99.
Lower.
$9.99.
Higher.
$14.99.
Lower.
$12.99.
Higher.
$13.99.
Lower.
$13.50.
Lower.
$13.
Stop the clock.
22 seconds.
Nice. So yeah, $13 for 3 tickets to a very forgettable quiz show from 1992.
You bet those will be going in our museum.
Mm-hmm. Right next to the 364 store sign.
Over my dead body. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, not over your dead body. Open all night.
Open all night?
Open all night. Open all night.
No, we did that close already. No. I forbid you. No.
All right.
Fine. Well, how about you just plug the website, which doesn't have any movies on it, but it does have all of our social media feeds at itwasathingontv.com. It also has all of this. It also has all of the episodes we've done. Over 80 of them right now.
And, of course, every Wednesday, 2 episodes from our previous week's shows go up on the Place to Be Nation pop feed. And, of course, we have our episodes from last week, Video Power and Xavier Renegade Angel. And, by the way, folks, there is a bonus segment in the Xavier Renegade Angel episode.
Mm-hmm.
We know you can't wait to see that.
Oh, yeah. You can't wait to... Yeah, because you really want to listen to all... what was it, an hour and 36 minutes? It clocked in.
It was a long time.
I still have not finished listening to it.
Oh, yeah, because it was so great.
It was very great. It's like, Greg, that was your magnum opus.
Oh, man. I mean, I'm still in shock over the episode with Xavier and the missing babies.
Oh, jeez.
That was an incredible episode, wasn't it?
Yeah, and before you go any further with it, because I know you will, let me just remind everybody out there, if you like what you're listening to, remember, like and subscribe, rate and review, and don't forget to share. Why, Mike?
I've lost the will to live after hearing that about Xavier Renegade. I'm sorry.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so that's exactly it. I've lost the will to live after talking about Xavier Renegade Angel, so don't share because really at this point, I don't care.
Oh.
As always, sharing is caring.
Yes. Next week, oh man, I've been looking forward to this show.
I think all of us have been looking forward to, not just one show. I think both. Well, actually, I shouldn't say both shows because we're going to do 3 shows next week. We're going to do 2.
Are you kidding me?
No, we're going to do 2 regular shows, and then we're going to do a mini-sode, which we'll do from time to time, maybe like a 10 to 15-minute installment, just because there's not much to talk about or not much to break down, but... So 3 shows, 2 regular and 1 mini-sode. That'll be coming your way next week.
Oh, my God. I can't wait for that. And the first subject, oh, my God. This is
one all 3 of us have been waiting for because we made a discovery how long ago? Would you say it was back around
January or February? I made a discovery on 1 episode.
Yeah, well, we were doing something with one of the episodes, and Greg made a discovery, and we said we've got to cover this. There's no doubt we need to cover this like as soon as possible, and so.
And it is related to a subject from one of our previous episodes.
Mm-hmm.
It is, yes.
Someone who we hold very near and dear to our hearts.
Yes.
Somebody who we're working on getting the wax sculpture for the museum.
Oh, geez. Just telegraph it, why don't you? But that's coming up next week. As always, thank you very much for your patronage. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you next week with not 2, 3 new installments of It Was a Thing on TV. Give me a roar, Greg.
Row!
If you enjoyed the scenes you watched tonight, you can see them in theaters or on network syndication and cable TV, or get them at your local video rental store.